Today, I want to talk about repacks once again. This time, we're not going to jump on any one particular scammer, but I want to talk about them in general. In particular, the amount of money that is being pumped into the hobby through these repackers and sort of what it means for the long-term viability / sustainability of our hobby, because I'm getting a lot of CDO / mortgage-backed security vibes around this. And if you guys know what they were, that essentially caused the housing crisis in the late noughties and early teens. It is something that should maybe be concerning each and every one of you. Now, I want to talk through it because maybe I'm talking up my ass, but I'm keen to hear what you guys have to think. Now, the reason why I thought this would be a good discussion was off of this post from Neo Cards and Comics. I was fairly certain he did a video on this, but I couldn't find it when I was going to record my thoughts on this. But if he did do one, I apologize, but we'll just use his post as reference for now, because what he talks through is the fact of what we've seen recently, right? You've got a lot of buying and selling facilitated by repackers, primarily by repackers, and he highlights that they're driving a large portion of the market right now. Now, he's referencing a post from a Facebook group. I'm not sure which Facebook group this is from. I'm assuming it's maybe Sports Card Nonsense. But what is highlighted here is exactly what has been known to many for a long time, that you've got these large repack companies that are sort of paying these young guys and girls to go ahead and buy products for them. And they're going to pay them a heck of a lot of money to try and do that. What this post is talking to is paying someone $150,000 USD base pay if they can buy between 40 to 60K worth of cards every week and get as close to 80% comps or lower as possible. If you think you can do more, they're going to pay you even more. And they sort of reference the fact that they're looking at taking a similar approach to Roth Cards and some of those guys, and that the guy has 5 to 8 positions open. So basically, he's looking to spend between $1 million and $1.3 million per week, which is, you know, crazy numbers. He also touches on the fact that flights and expenses are paid for. So essentially, that 150K base salary is probably closer to 200 when you factor all that stuff in as well. Now, again, this is nothing new. If you've been close to your ear on the ground, especially if you are in the States, it's going to be a lot easier. You'll know that there's been rumors around stuff like this for a long time. I think a lot of people have been telling me that Roth Cards is doing exactly this. Kenneth Forno is exactly the same. Some of these other guys. And it's something that's sort of been happening, you know, for a long time. And it's just one of those things that's pretty interesting, because clearly you've got a lot of people willing to put a lot of money into this hobby to try and make some profits, right? Because if you could be spending that kind of money, that's going to give you a better return. If you've got $1 million and putting it into a term deposit as an example, especially if you're paying at 80% comps. But it's one of those things around where's the money going to end up, right? Who's going to be left holding the bag? Because eventually stuff like this is going to get even worse, right? You're going to see things blow up even harder. And the reason why I can say that is if you've got a market that has repackers primarily pumping money in, and then those same repackers are the ones buying those same cards when people are looking to dump them, like where is the money being realized? Like where's the end consumer basically paying that money? It's almost like you've got repackers paying repackers and they're just constantly pushing the prices up. Eventually, you know, we're going to reach a point where people are going to be like, well, I'm not paying that. And then, you know, all the repackers might leave. Now, that's obviously a really out there suggestion, because I don't think they're going anywhere anytime soon. But that's sort of where my mind is going. Like, where are these cards and where are these profits being realized? I don't know if they are, and I don't know if they will anytime soon. And if more of this money keeps coming in, what's going to happen? You know, and I'm keen to hear what you guys have to say down below. The reason why I sort of reference CDOs and mortgage-backed securities is because that's sort of what happened there, where you had, you know, people, you know, being given loans that they shouldn't be, and then those debts on those loans basically being sold amongst different banks and financial institutions until somebody was left holding the bag, right? They basically kept selling and packaging up the same products over and over again, i.e. repacks, and it gets to somebody at the end of the day and they're like, well, hang on a minute, number one, I'm not going to get anything good. Number two, the card that is now in this product is actually not worth anywhere near what the price of admission was for those repacks. And we're sort of seeing that a little bit with how crazy some of these prices are sort of going. And it goes back, you know, to what we said about the whole Justin Scamble situation, where that guy essentially had these crazy prices on his repacks and then had terrible cards within them. You know, eventually you could have an unsustainable market in the sense that these repackers have paid a heck of a lot of money for these cards. They've pushed the prices up themselves, and then all of a sudden, you know, they're not worth that. I think it's just something that's worth keeping in mind, and I'm keen, like I've said a few times now, to hear what you guys have to say, because it's one of those ones that I think we just need to watch this space kind of thing. And it also goes back to something that I've talked about on the channel for again 3 years. That's something that Roman Shav said. So this guy is a luxury watch dealer. He works in the grey market, i.e. he sells watches on the secondary market. And one of the things he sort of alluded to when it came to the boom for luxury watches, because it was like far worse than what we saw for sports cards, was that so many of these watches had prices pushed up because it was just flippers selling between flippers, and they weren't ending up in the hands, I should say, of the end consumer, i.e. the person that actually wants to buy and wear that watch. And these repackers are sort of doing the same thing when it comes to sports cards. You know, they keep selling things between each other. They're making little margins here or there. And then all of a sudden, a card that was maybe worth $1,000 has been pushed up to $1,500. And that just keeps happening until, you know, they try and sell it to somebody that actually wants it. And that person's like, well, I actually want that card for my collection. I'm not going to pay for it. And like I said, we saw that for watches, and that market has tanked a lot harder than sports cards, actually. And it's just an interesting one, considering they, you know, actually have a utility value around owning them. It was just funny to sort of see him 3 years ago talk about the fact that you've had, you know, a $10,000 watch get pushed up to 30, 40,000. Now there's actually no one that actually wants to pay for it. Is that going to happen with what repackers are driving? You know, my thought process, that stuff was already happening when it came to the boom of sports cards anyway, but I think repackers just adds another dimension to it, because whilst you still have people happy to pay these things now, like what's going to happen when repacks are maybe not sustainable anymore and nobody wants to buy them? And if nobody wants to buy them, what's going to happen to all these guys that have millions of dollars being invested into, you know, making repacks on a weekly basis? You know, are they going to up and leave? And if they do up and leave, what's going to happen to the prices of all these cards? If, you know, the only reason why these prices are sustainable because you've got all these whales pushing money in, when they leave, what's going to happen? Are there actually going to be that many buyers out there? And if there aren't that many buyers out there, and this is where the CDO and mortgage-backed security piece comes into it, are things going to tank very fast overnight? Because all of a sudden you've got people that are over-leveraged, they've taken out loans to maybe facilitate creating some of these repacks, or you've got these collectors that have a lot of money invested in these cards, and all of a sudden stuff comes down, they need to sell quickly, nobody wants to buy, cards literally tank overnight. Like that is a very real possibility when you're looking at these numbers that these people are sort of pushing into the hobby. So just one of those things. I'm keen to hear what you guys have to say. When I look at where the hobby is right now, you've had PSA investing a heck of a lot of money, collectors investing a heck of a lot of money. They've acquired SGC. You've got Fanatics coming in now with their own events and putting all this money in, buying tops, all this crap going on, right? You've got these businesses pushing a lot of money in. I think that's going to help make it be sustainable, right? Because you've got so many companies now with vested interests in making sure that this hobby is successful. But that's a lot of money. That's just one repacker talking about spending $1 million a week. You know, is this just fake? Is this fake news? Maybe, but this story and rumors and other people have confirmed other similar things in the past as well. So, you know, let's hypothetically say you've got repackers and they're investing, you know, tens of millions of dollars a week, which is entirely possible. If that goes like that overnight, what's going to happen to these prices? The other thing to flag on this as well is you've got a lot of people in the US in particular telling me that the reason they're able to sell so much inventory at their tables is because repackers are coming through either earlier on in the show or at the end of the show to clean up everything, basically buy everyone's inventory. And again, if that stuff stops, you're now going to have people going to shows that stuff doesn't sell. You know, what does that mean? So, like I said 5 or 6 times now, like a true idiot that I am, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and we'll see you in the next one, because, you know, this thing could be a lot spicier than what people think, and I'm, again, keen to hear what you guys have to say. So, as always, cheers, and I'll see you in the next one.